Rules. It has zero welding, all-strip body. It was only seatbelts. The next thing we're going to work on this car is the trunk. Now, this trunk is quite a bit different than any other vehicle that I've worked on personally for the trunk. And the reason is there's basically no trunk in this car. The whole trunk has been basically cut off this car, and this is a little bit different than what I'm used to. What I would really like to do is I'd like to unbolt this trunk lid, and I'd like to put it inside the trunk, and I'd like to weld it down or seatbelt it down somehow between the shock towers. But I really do not think my rules are going to allow for that. So I don't know if I'm going to do that. Maybe I'll make a couple phone calls to the promoter to see if I'm allowed to do that, because that's what I really think should be done with this trunk. And then once the trunk lid is inside the trunk, then you belly the speaker deck to touch the roof of the trunk. If that's a no-go, the plan that we're going to have to do is tie the trunk closed as best as we can. The rules say only seatbelts, so I'd have to put a seatbelt through here, I'd put a seatbelt through here, I'd put a couple seatbelts through here, another one over here, and then I'd put a couple across at the rear bumper as well. But let me contact the promoter to see if I am able to put this trunk inside of the trunk. And if I'm allowed to do that, then that's a completely different game plan. And it would greatly benefit this car, I think. So I'm going to make a couple phone calls, and I will let you guys know the results. So after a phone call and some talking, found out a couple things. One, I can change the cage up a bit, and I can run a gas tank protector. That can change this car completely. They say it can be off the floor or on the floor, but it cannot be bolted, welded, wired, anything to the floor. Now that's great, but being like that, I can't run it a couple other derbies. So what we're going to do is going to keep it 1 inch off the floor, and I'll show you guys how to do that. I'll make a separate video on how to build a gas tank protector. Now there's plenty of different ways, we'll talk about that later. The other thing is I'm going to play a gray area here. Nowhere, I repeat, nowhere in the rules does it say the trunk or hood has to stay in the factory location. So we're going to move it. We're going to unbolt it, and we're going to rebolt it to where I want it. Now the catch is we can't weld it in, so that kind of draws back quite a bit. But what we can do is we can bolt it in using the factory hinges through the wheel wells. So let's get started on this and get this trunk moved. For you guys that don't know what I was talking about on how I wanted to do the trunk, which was actually just shut down because the promoter asked for photos, so I did what I wanted to do, and he said no. So I'm not too upset about it, but this is what I think that has to be done to these Mazdas to make them strong in the back. So let me show you here. What I've done is I've actually unbolted the trunk, and without any cutting, I've placed the trunk inside of the back of the car. Now, I am not allowed to do this, but this is what I think needs to be done to these cars to make the back ends of them strong. That trunk fits in there with zero cutting. All you have to do is kick it a couple times and she goes in there. So Anybody building a Mazda that can play with the rules a little bit better than this, this is what I think it should look like. So now that the trunk lid idea has been shut down, what we're going to do now is, you see that eye right there? And that eye right there on the frame rails? We're going to cut the frame on this car. And the reason for cutting the frame is it's going to help this car fold up. And that's what we want. Because these marks are really, really close to the back of the car. And the reason for that is the rear tires are very close to the back of the car. And I want to keep the sheet metal out of the tires. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a mini grinder, we're going to notch the frame, hammer that down with a hammer, and then what we're going to do is we're going to get ready to start closing the trunk. So let's get started on this, and I'll keep you guys informed as we go. So there you go, you can see both of the notches we cut. Now before we close off this trunk area, what we're going to do is we're going to add the threaded rod. Now we're going to add the threaded rod behind where we notch the frame, so closer to the driver. So that way when the frame does start coming up, it will hit the threaded rod, which will be an added support to help keep it away so it doesn't come into the driver compartment, the trunk basically. So we're going to go drill some holes, get some threaded rod, drop her through, see what we can do. As you can see, we have the threaded rod installed into this trunk, and as you might notice, it does have a bend on it as they are not straight vertical. And I actually planned on that because now it will kind of pull the speaker deck down on an angle and also pull the frame up on an angle, helping it to stay out of the way of the tires even more. So now that that's done, what we're going to do is we're going to seatbelt the trunk closed, because that's what the rules say I can do. We're going to blow a couple extra holes in the trunk with a grinder and torches and stuff like that. And then we're basically going to go gung-ho tying this thing down with seatbelts. As many as we can get away with. And if they don't allow how many we have, then we'll cut some off when we get to the demolition derby. So as you can see, we cut a lot of spots here for the seatbelts to go through. I'm going to do a separate video on how to actually use seatbelts. There's many different ways. Now, I used a torch to cut these. There is so many ways to cut holes for seatbelts to go through. I've seen it done with mini grinders, I've seen it done with sawzalls, I've seen it done with a screwdriver and a hammer. So, just because this is the way I'm doing it doesn't mean it's right, and just because this is the way you're not doing it does not make that wrong. So, now that all the holes are cut, no fires, thank God, close the trunk. So now as you see, every hole has an adjoining hole right through there. So we have 4 on the top, we can put 2 there, and then we can put 2 through the hole in the floor around the bumper. Now a lot of people think that the more seatbelt you put, the stronger it is. I don't think that's true. I think more times that you wrap the seatbelt to ensure it does not rip makes it stronger. So we're going to start seatbelting this trunk closed, and once it's closed, then we can start hammering it down. So, boom, let's get started. But what we're going to do now is we're going to basically dish this trunk out and push the spare tire carrier up inside of the car. Now what we're going to use to dish the trunk is just a sludge hammer. We have the trunk tied closed and we have the threaded rod in there. So basically everything's going to come down as one unit, and that's what you want. You don't want the trunk being much higher than the actual body. So I'm excited for that. Now the next thing is we're going to push the spare tire carrier up inside of it, and that takes no special tools at all. Basically all we're going to do is put a jack with a couple blocks of wood underneath this unit, and then I'm going to jump on the trunk repeatedly. I'm going to put a whole bunch of spare tires on the trunk and jump just extra weight to get that spare tire up inside that trunk. And the reason for that is because the tighter you put the steel, the tighter the car will get and the better smashing battering ram it will get. Well, I think that's the end of this video. What we did today is we put the threaded rod in, we put it through the frame, we notched the frame, we kind of dished the trunk a bit, we also spiked the roof. I find spiking the roof helps a lot because it makes you feel the vision a lot bigger. Now, this was basically a seatbelt only and threaded rod. There's zero welding back here, and I think it went pretty good. But stay tuned for the next video when we push the spare tire carrier up inside the trunk, which takes almost no special tools at all. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pre-bend this car. And I think that will make this car a little bit better. But as you can see, we've also cleared a lot of space around the rear tires, so that way that the sheet metal will not come into them. That will be a later video when we discuss what tires I think I should run on this car. But make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and the like button, and showing your support for this channel will make it a little bit easier for me to keep making videos. And thank you very much for watching, and do not forget, Zach's Workshop now has a Facebook page. Take care, guys, and see you tomorrow.